And good evening, I'm Madison Wade. Widespread PG&E power shutoffs are happening right now across 21 counties. So we want to make sure you're prepared because they could last through tomorrow night. Now take a look. PG&E has cut power to about 167,000 customers because of fire danger. This is a live map of their outages on the PG&E's website. Those purple triangles show where the shutoffs are happening right now. And that purple has been flooding the map all day long. People in parts of Amador, El Dorado, Nevada, Placer, Tuolumne, and Yuba counties are affected. We are also following the Bear Fire, which is now forcing people in Butte, Yuba, and Plumas counties to evacuate. This fire is part of the North Complex fires, which have burned more than 40,000 acres and is 51% contained. And take a look at this time-lapse video. All of that smoke going up into our skies. It is a big reason why we are seeing so much poor air quality across our area. So let's get things over to Chief Meteorologist Monica Woods looking at the effect of all that smoke. Also, our fire danger moving through tonight into tomorrow.
It's pretty frightening when you see those skies turn that eerie color of brown and then kind of darkish way before they should during the day. And that's exactly what we're continuing to see. Now, this is from satellite imagery. You saw from those tower cam videos all that smoke with that significant smoke plume. But now we're looking at that smoke moving its way through the valley. So this really gives a good indication of where the smoke is and then where it was guided by those prominent north and easterly winds for today. This smoke so thick that our Doppler radar was able to pick it up and is still doing so because of all that particulate. So what the Doppler does is it bounces back and sends it back to the radar, and you can see how thick that smoke is, just like we would raindrops. But instead, these are smoke particles and that ash that has fallen through some of the region for today. Also looking at that towering pyrocumulus cloud, you can see how high up in the atmosphere it was stretching. So it's kind of in that environment where it may be starting to create its own weather. We're going to continue to monitor that. But in the meantime, so what are the winds doing? How much more smoke might we see? Well, currently we still have those north and east winds in Oroville. So that's going to continue to kind of pull it down into the valley, and then it shoots straight down because we still have those north winds at about 10 to 15 miles per hour. Not the best of news, I know, right now, because that smoke is still sitting very heavy over us right now. Peak wind gusts earlier today were upwards of 35 and 45 miles per hour. We have seen the peak wind event already occur, and now we'll start to see lighter winds through tonight. But unfortunately, this is what the air quality looks like as of last count. We still have the unhealthful air sitting through much of the valley, but it's starting to push up into the eastern side of the valley and into the lower foothills, and also into the San Joaquin Valley. Keep in mind, we still have that slink fire off to the east of the San Joaquin Valley that's pulling in through the San Joaquin area as well. And these are just some of the images that we were seeing sent into our ABC 10 weather force, the ABC 10 app. This is from Jill in East Sacramento, the sky turning that dark, smoky haze. This was up in Newcastle. Shelley sending this one in of that golden glow in the sky. And also the woodland smoke. Look at the sun just below the banner there, which shows Sharon's name. You can see the sun, just that tiny little speck of a glow, really dampened by all the smoke that was moving through not only the foothills but through the valley. This is our Lincolnport air. Now, Patricia also noted that there was ash actually falling from the sky. We've seen that a couple of times this year so far, especially with those complexes that started earlier in August from all the lightning. Get this, that north complex started in mid-August. So it restarted up again today with those fierce winds and spread so very quickly. And this was the smoke-filled skies in Yuba County. Diane sending this in earlier today saying, wow, what happened? All of a sudden we just saw this big plume of smoke. Now you can see with this timeline here with our smoke resolution how that fire just off to the north of I-80 and just off to the east of Chico really sending smoke cascading through the valley, and there's that slink fire just off to the east of the San Joaquin Valley. Here's what happens tonight with our winds. They start to back off ever so slightly, but keep in mind, the winds kind of help disperse some of that smoke. So everything that's sitting over us right now, if we get the lighter winds, that means everything's going to stay sitting over us into tomorrow. Now, the smoke will start to kind of work its way through the atmosphere, but it's still going to be present. and they haven't gotten full containment of that fire either, so that's still putting off quite a bit of smoke. Tomorrow morning, we still have light north to northeasterly winds, so any smoke that's up there is still going to be put into the valley. But then we see a more significant wind shift. Now, this will help for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's going to help to further disperse some of that particulate matter, that smoke that's sitting over us right now. And it will also help to elevate the humidity. But until we get to that point, we still have a red flag warning in effect until noon tomorrow. And it's primarily because we're coming off of the record heat over the past couple of days. Today's highs were still in the upper 90s. And then we had those dry north and east winds, and we still have those for tonight. That dropped humidity levels into the single digits. So think about this. We still have plenty of fuel that's so very dry from record heat. Plus we have the low humidity and still have those winds going tonight, still at about 10 to 15 miles per hour. So our red flag warning will verify, it looks like, through noon tomorrow with that higher fire danger and critical fire weather. Madison?
Absolutely, Monica. Thank you so much for that updated mapping and information for us right now. We do want to answer a couple questions we're getting from people right now. Jasmine is wondering where to get a closer look at that PG&E Power Shutoff map. We do have that link to our outage map on our website at abc10.com. So that way you can type in your address. It'll pull up where those outages are happening around you, and will tell you when and if your power will come back on anytime soon. Now, many schools are following distance learning because of the coronavirus pandemic, which means they rely on power and online access to go to school. Right now, we're working to learn more about how these outages will impact that, but take a look. In El Dorado County, we have confirmed both the Camino Union and Placerville Union school districts will close all schools tomorrow. In Nevada County, the Twin Ridges Elementary School District will be closed too. In Plumas County, Chester and Greenville schools will be closed. We've also reached out to other school districts across our area, so stay with us for updates on air and online at abc10.com. Now, our Monica Coleman went to Nevada City, where schools were closed today because of the shutoff.
The power is out and so is school for Nevada City School District students. Superintendent Monica Doherty says bad weather conditions and some of the schools not having electricity led to making the final call to cancel class.
We're going to launch some different materials tomorrow to try to open as a school day, even though they can't go onto their normal websites. So we're working on that right now, trying not to lose another day because we've already lost 4 days.
Nevada City School District has lost almost a full school week due to the Jones fire and now the PG&E Power Shutoffs. Kylie Griffiths teaches kindergarten at Deer Creek Elementary and says she worries her students who are distance learning will fall behind.
They received work on Friday for this week, but they can't access my recorded lessons or our in-person meetings or anything without power.
I found Mom Lauren Dow working with her daughter in the grass outside her tutor's house that also lost power.
Everything's done on Zoom, and if we don't have power, we don't have internet. And we can't charge our tablets or our computers that we need to do it.
Dow says her daughter goes to school in Grass Valley and went to class today, but knows it's only a matter of time before they're in the dark.
We weren't part of the first PSPSs. We also had power, but the second, all the rest of them, we lost power for the whole time. So it's just a matter of time before we also will lose power.
All right, and we're going to want to get out to Monica Woods. I know a lot of people, Monica, are talking specifically on here about Tuolumne County, saying that there hasn't been any winds there, so let's turn the electricity back on. But it's not as simple as we know. PG&E has to inspect all those lines before they do turn them back on. How are the winds tonight?
Well, and I was listening to PG&E during their news conference, and they were saying that until the winds get to a criteria where we can actually get the equipment up, i.e. some helicopters and drones to really survey all of the equipment, we can't necessarily turn the power on, because if there's a power pole down and we turn on those lines, there still could be an ignition, and that could be after the wind event actually starts to subside. We're seeing calmer winds right now, but our red flag warning conditions continue. So again, turning power lines on, if there is a power line down, could mean sparking some very dry fuel. We only have humidities that are running in the single digits to right around 15%. It will come up slightly for tonight, but just not above that criteria level, with wind gusts down to about 35 miles per hour, and they'll continue to back off for tonight. Here's a look at our current winds just to give you some perspective of what we're dealing with right now. And you're right, in Tuolumne County, we're not seeing the particularly strong winds in a mass area. But what we have to consider too is that when you go down to the micro scale, scale, these tiny little areas in the canyons where there could still be areas of power, we could see some higher gusts through at least about midnight or so, and then I'm expecting those winds to really start to back off. But currently still have those winds coming out of the north and east. Those are the driest winds that we see. They're offshore. They're not pulling in any sort of moisture at this point. So it continues to dry as it moves down the hill, then through the valley. And they tend to keep our temperatures up ever so slightly where we would otherwise see some cooler weather. Those winds also bringing in smoke from this fire right here. It's called the North Complex. I was able to grab this earlier today from our alert wildfire tower camera network, and you can see that towering pyrocumulus cloud sitting overhead. This North Complex started, by the way, in the middle of August from the lightning that we saw. A pretty wild event, and really a historic event for us with over I think it was somewhere over 14,000 lightning strikes, I think is what they finally came in with. And so we saw that come into play in mid-August, kind of died down, and then with these winds today, started right back up. Here's a look at that bear fire from Bucks Lake. Mike sending this one in, and then we can also see kind of that towering cumulus cloud coming in from Gray Eagle from Jim earlier today. Now all this made its way through the valley. You can see how the winds kind of support pushing it farther to the south and then off to the east just ever so slightly. But again, we're going to continue to see the presence of some smoke even for tonight. Let's talk about temperatures for a moment. Now those that air mass that came in dropped our temperatures by about 5 to 20 degrees for today. And so we still have temperatures that are in the 80s because of the winds that are going to keep any of that warmer air closer to the surface. We came out of the record territory highs of 100+ degree temperatures. For the past 2 days, we've had record highs. Today, we dropped those highs into the 90s, but for this year, an even bigger change. Highs were only in the 60s to near 70. Let me show you the weather pattern and how this all unfolded. The high pressure ridge that brought us the record heat still just off to the west of us here, but it's in opposition to that low that brought snow to the Intermountain West through parts of the Rockies. So what happened is in that transition zone where you have that colder air and the warmer air, and winds are created by temperature difference, you have those dangerously dry winds now turning just off to the east a bit. The low's going to be out of here by the time we get to tomorrow afternoon and evening and on our way into our Thursday. So we're going to lose the wind effect, but again, it takes a while for us to recoup some of those humidities. Oh, there's our director, Joe, standing out there in the Gilmore backyard. We've got the hazy skies for tonight. Our temperatures are going to fall into the 60s. But what I want to point out is those winds that are going to be starting to die down heading into tomorrow. The hazy skies continue though, and I think that's a big story for a lot of folks now, is just as we start to talk about the potential for power coming back on, so many people are dealing with poor air quality. So you don't have access to your air conditioner, if you don't have a generator, and you're trying to open those windows to pull in at least a little bit of that cool air, but unfortunately, we have the hazy skies and the smoke that we're going to be dealing with for tonight into the first part of tomorrow until those southwest winds really start to kick in, and that won't be until later in the day. So just to put this into perspective, when we're going to see some of those southwest winds kick in to really kind of clear out some of the smoke that we're dealing with. Tomorrow morning we start off with those north winds, which means we'll very likely start off with the smoke, and it won't be until later on in the afternoon that we start to see some of those winds pull that smoke out of the area, get some relief. But Madison, unfortunately, at that point in the day, we'll very likely be talking about most people getting their power back on. So it's almost like this double whammy.
Absolutely.
We have the heat, we had no power, and now we have the smoky air, and so you can't really get that relief from any of the elements that we're dealing with right now.
Absolutely, Monica. We thank you so much. And the smoke is truly so bad. So again, just make sure you're taking precautions with that. We are here to help too. A reminder for all of you watching, if you or a loved one needs information about these preventative shutoffs and the wildfire danger in your area, text the word power to 916-321-3310. Our team of experts are standing by to answer your question and get the information you need. And to get breaking news alerts anytime about these outages, just download the ABC 10 app. Weather conditions are also there. It is free in your app store. We have live updates right here and online throughout the day to make sure you know what is going on. Now to the latest on the fires burning in our state. We're going to give a quick roundup here. Let's take a look at this video from Mammoth Pool Reservoir in the Sierra National Forest. That is where the creek fire is burning. It has burned more than 143,000 acres since just Sunday. Now today we're seeing new evacuations related to that fire burning through the hills near Fresno. More than 1,000 fire personnel are working to fight those flames on rugged terrain, and we know several people, hikers and people among them, are still waiting to be evacuated. And I-5 in Sacramento now open after a grass fire forced both directions to shut down near the airport. This all happened around 2 this afternoon. Firefighters were able to fully contain it in less than 2 hours, but not before burning 800 acres, and it burned 2 abandoned buildings. Now listen to this statistic today from Governor Newsom. He said that since just August 15th, that's less than 1 month ago, we've since had more than 900 fires. Take a listen.
This is historic. This is the largest fire season we've had in terms of total acreage impacted in some time back, recorded recent modern history. But nonetheless, you put it in comparison terms, in contrast to last year, it's rather extraordinary. The challenge that we faced again so far this season, 2020. Since just, August 15th, just a few weeks back, we have had over 900 fires statewide.
That's 2.3 million acres burned so far this year. Now, from the evacuations are prompting the United States Forest Service to close all national forest campgrounds in California with smoke, heat, and wildfire danger. That's likely the last place you'll want to be right now. But the Forest Service is saying this is a mandatory closure of campgrounds. So if you had reservations, you can get a full refund. But there is no word yet on when those campgrounds will reopen. This is the first time in 13 years a national forest has been closed in California, and it's been decades since multiple national forests have been closed like this.
Well, as you can see here, dark storefronts all up and down South Washington Street. John Bartel here in historic downtown Sonora, where these PG&E power shutoffs, along with the fire dangers, really affecting all of Tuolumne County. It's estimated some 29,000 PG&E customers will be impacted in Tuolumne County. One of those PG&E customers working through that shutoff is Casey Hedges, owner of Little Roots Toy Shop.
We're just living with it now, adapting.
Electricity is not necessary to sell toys, but that's not the case for many other businesses.
Just keeping the stuff cold. We have clothes.
Taqueria Sonora and many other businesses will have to keep fueling their generators a little longer. PG&E power shutoffs are expected to last through tomorrow. Till then, community resource centers are opening up in 4 places: Columbia Elementary School, Mother Lode Fairground, Ebsen Park, and Mary Lavroni Park. And if you're thinking about driving up to Tuolumne County to do some hiking or camping, think again. Many of the national forests in this area closed, including Stanislaus National Forest. And I can tell you this, there are many park rangers out patrolling those roads. Back to you.
Good information, John. Thank you. There are 44 community resource centers run by PG&E open now. That's down from 47 earlier. 3 had to close due to wildfires and smoke. These centers have things like charging stations for phones, free water, and snacks. You can visit our website, abc10.com/links, for a full list of those locations. Also, do you have a question about resource centers in your area? We've said it before, but we do want to remind you, if you or a loved one needs information or any information related to this heat and wildfire danger and the smoke, you can always text us. The number is right here on your screen. Just text the word POWER to 916-321-3310. Our team of experts standing by to answer your questions and get you the information you need. Let's take another live look at the PG&E outage map now. Now, all the areas that are marked in purple are places without power. We're going to show you that map here in a second. So again, these outages are expected to last potentially until tomorrow night. And again, PG&E does need time to reinspect those lines and get them re-energized before going forward with having the power turned back on. We know a lot of people are anxiously awaiting that. So in the meantime, we are here to help. That is why we're bringing you this live little broadcast on Facebook, also on YouTube and our app. So we are here to help you. Now, here's some more information about what is forecasted and the restoration process when it comes to PG&E.
If we have an opportunity to start the patrol and restoration process sooner, than what's forecasted, we will do that.
And PG&E has opened community resource centers in impacted communities where you can charge your devices, you can get snacks and water. They are outside with social distancing because of the pandemic. Doors open at 8 o'clock in the morning and they close at 10 o'clock tonight. Yet another round of PG&E power shutoffs begs the question, are they working? A lot of you right now on Facebook even asking that with hesitation. Avoiding sparking wildfires is what they say with their equipment when the power is turned off. Now, ABC 10's Kurt Rivera went to a man with a lot of experience with fires for those answers.
As California burns through another record-breaking year of acres destroyed, over 2.2 million to date, are the PG&E power shutoffs a necessary tool to prevent an even worse catastrophe?
The short term is this is what PG&E is doing to immediately protect life and property.
Ken Pimlott spent more than 31 years with CAL FIRE, the final 8 as director, before retiring 2 years ago. Now running for a seat on the El Dorado County Board of Supervisors, he says yes, turning off power in fire-prone areas is the right thing to do for now.
PG&E infrastructure, other utility infrastructure, just were never designed to withstand the kinds of weather they're being put up against. As well as, obviously some of this is aging infrastructure.
Pimlott says utilities like PG&E must keep up with changing weather conditions like severe winds coupled with extreme heat by upgrading their equipment.
And to continue to provide the maintenance and vegetation management around all of their infrastructure following their vegetation management plan.
And that is a monumental task with PG&E owning over 106,000 miles of electrical distribution lines.
And it's going to take time and a significant amount of effort.
Then there is the other key to lessening California's fire danger and as a result, lessening the chances of a power shutoff. That is relying more on prescribed burns and thinning out vegetation.
We have to redouble our efforts to put more prescribed fire on the ground to reduce the fuel loading.
Bottom line, Pimlott says it is up to everyone to do their part in preventing California wildfires and take fire season seriously.
Everyone needs to be treating red flag warnings and these north winds no different than a hurricane or a tornado.
It is a recipe for disaster. Monica, you know most about that. So let's check back in with you now about the smoke we're seeing from the Bear Fire and how many more evacuations are happening at this hour.
Oh, you're right about that. I remember talking to Ken back in, 2016, I want to say, after the Tubbs fire. And that's exactly what we were talking about. I said, I grew up in the Midwest, did a lot of forecasting down in the Southeast with hurricanes and tornadoes, and it feels like fire weather for us should be very much considered our severe weather season, and that's exactly what it's becoming. A red flag warning still in effect until noon tomorrow, and that's because basically we've had these north winds, these east winds. They're very dry. It lowers the humidity to a critical fire weather condition and criteria to make it so that if a fire were to start, it could spread so very quickly. Now, keep this in mind. The Bear Fire, it's part of the North Complex Fire, that started back in the middle of August. We had so many fires burning at the time. You do the best that you can to contain it to a point where it looks like, okay, we've got a pretty good handle on it. This flared up again for today. Look at that pyrocumulus cloud that formed over that fire earlier this afternoon. It was so intense that we were able to pick it up on our visible satellite imagery from space. Looking down, you can see how the smoke moves its way into the Yuba City area, Grass Valley, Auburn, Sacramento, Elk Grove, pushes its way southward even through the San Joaquin Valley and the southern mother lode. The particulates that are in that, so dense that Doppler radar has been able to pick that up throughout the day. It's now starting to quiet down ever so slightly, but we're still seeing that pretty good plume coming off. And as we turn that radar on its side, you can see how those clouds are making their way well up into the atmosphere. Now, this was supported with the development from these gusty winds for today, anywhere from 35 to over 45 miles per hour. Those peak wind gusts have already occurred, so we're actually starting to see the winds back off ever so slightly, but it's the direction that is awfully concerning here. We still have north and east winds, which means dry conditions persist. Now, it's not so much in the southern mother lode. So Sonora right now we're looking at calm winds, but we can see some pockets in there. And I turn our attention to the contours, the colors that are up there on the map. What you'll notice is that there's isolated areas that are seeing some stronger winds. So it's not widespread strong winds, but we are still seeing some isolated areas that are dealing with some strong wind gusts, particularly in some oriented canyons that can really pick up those winds and speed them up actually as they head through the canyons, but everything's oriented in a different direction, so it depends on how those winds are hitting them. Air quality at this hour. Now, this is going to take into account ozone and smoke. I just want you to know that, plus PM10, which is not so much that we're worried about, but you can see through parts of the San Joaquin Valley how that smoke is really starting to accumulate. We also have another fire that we're watching, is the Slink fire, and that's sending some smoke into the valley as well, especially for the San Joaquin Valley. These are some of the views that you were sending in. This one from East Sacramento, the skies just kind of turning dark well before sunset. Jill submitting that one. And then as we head into Newcastle, Shelley showing that golden glow as the smoke just filled the skies. This one with woodland smoke, this is in the valley obviously, and you can see a tiny little speck of sun just below where Sharon's name is there. As the sky started to turn dark today, we had a period of clearing. Things were actually looking a little bit better. And then as that north complex fire really got going and those east and north winds transported all that smoke, this is what it's been looking like. Lincoln, in fact, Patricia's saying it was raining ash earlier today. Smoke filled the skies in Yuba County. Diane submitting that photo there with that fire just off to the east of Yuba County and Plumas County in the National Forest. And you can see with this timeline how that smoke was really just pushing its way through the valley through a good part of the day. And there's that Slink fire just off to the east of Stockton and Modesto, again, pushing its way into the valley there. So let's talk about what happens for tonight. We'll see those winds still at about 5 to 10 miles per hour. And basically, the weather reporting stations are reporting clouds, but it's not clouds, it's smoke. That's how thick that smoke is out there. Hazy skies continue through tonight into early tomorrow morning. It will start to partially clear tomorrow. That's if we get better containment of these fires, I should add as a caveat. So what happens tomorrow morning is we still have those north to east winds through the morning, but they're just not as strong. So you can even see with these contours, the colors on the map, they're just a bit more diluted. We're looking at lighter winds to about 10 to 15 miles per hour, even in some of those passes and canyons. So things are really starting to quiet down overnight tonight through early tomorrow. Then we see a nice little wind shift here out of the southwest. So that will start to bring in some humidity, some higher moisture content. It will help to elevate those fuel levels, so we won't be seeing those very, very dry fuels. And that's when we see that red flag warning expire afternoon tomorrow, when we start to see a shift in our weather pattern. So what's been the setup? What's the deal? How did we get here? Our high pressure ridge brought the record heat. We had 2 and 3 days for some of us with record heat. In fact, Stockton reported the all-time record high for the month of September at that location. That just shows you how intense that high pressure ridge was. Then you talk about that low, that L, off to the east of us, kind of settling into the Great Basin. It brought snow to the Rockies. So these two air masses were in competition with each other, and really they're opposing systems. When we have that, you've got the warmth, you've got the cold. Winds are created by temperature difference. And so when we have that setup, it's basically a perfect recipe to see strong winds in Northern California, Santa Ana winds in Southern California. They're also dealing with this in Southern California as well. How do we get rid of it? Well, the low finally starts to move off to the east. The high will basically settle in. It's not going to be anywhere near as strong as what it was over the holiday weekend. And that's when we start to pick up those southwest winds, which will start to alleviate some of the wind problems that we've been dealing with here. Now, on the flip side, we also talk about temperatures. Our temperatures have dropped some 15 to almost 20 degrees in most places because of this cooler air mass coming in. It's just that we're not feeling the full effects of it because we still have those dry winds, which will keep a bit of the warmth closer to the surface. It's just that we were cooler for today with highs in the 90s instead of 100s. So here's the setup for tomorrow. 70s along the coast. We have the hazy skies for the valley and the hills. The Sierra will actually start to pick up on some of that haze just because the winds will start to shift and push some of that up the hill a bit. Highs will stay in the 90s for the most part, but if the smoke becomes particularly thick, again, depending on how much containment they get of some of the surrounding fires. We still have the August complex fire burning, by the way, too. That's what the smoke that was moving in the last couple of days. That could bring down these highs ever so slightly, but again, it's at the expense of having some smoke in the air. So right now we're forecasting highs in the low 90s, hazy skies, 70s up top for the Sierra. But Madison, again, this is just one of those situations. You come out of the record heat into this wind event. There's kind of a no-win situation because you either have the heat or you have the wind event with power outages, and now people can't even open their windows tonight because we've got so much smoke coming in as well.
Absolutely, Monica. I know it's not to make light of the situation, but we did have a comment that did make me laugh. You know, sometimes laughter really can help in the middle of a stressful environment, but someone was asking, what next? Sharks in Folsom Lake? You know, I mean, it just seems like once we're all dealing with so much when it comes to our weather that impacts our daily lives. All right, Monica, thank you. I don't know if you can hear me, but we'll move on to the live look of the PG&E outage map now. We want to show you again the areas marked in purple are places without power. This is in real time, so it's been flooded with purple all day. Power might be out until tomorrow night. And you can look at that map in a bigger form on our website at abc10.com. Also, it's on PG&E's website if you just search for outages. And a reminder, if you or a loved one needs information about these shutoffs and the wildfire danger in your area, text the word POWER to 916-321-3310. Our team is standing by to answer your questions to get you the information you need. And again, here at ABC 10, our viewers are the priority right now. That is throughout the day. That is why we're doing these live streams, to keep you on top of the very latest developments from PG&E, also our own meteorologists and fire officials. We will have much more tonight on Late News Tonight at 11, including the Bear Fire. We do have a reporter heading to the scene right now to get an update on the evacuations, the poor air quality. We have all the updates for you at our website, abc10.com, also our app. So we will have much more news coming up tonight at 11. Thank you for watching. We'll live again at 11 with Late News Tonight, and we're back tomorrow morning with Morning Blend beginning at 5 in the morning. You can get the latest safety information on our app, our website, and as always, right here on Facebook. Thanks for watching, everyone.